Hi guys, welcome to my MithrilJS tutorial. Today I'm just going to be simply showing you how to create a to-do list using MithrilJS components. As I mentioned in my previous video, MithrilJS is a JavaScript client-side framework that allows you to create single page applications as well as snippets of JavaScript code as well to add functionality and integrate into your website or web app. As it currently stands, I am using the CDN, the MithrilJS CDN right here, and I'll be creating my to-do list app in here. Now I'm timing myself about 10 minutes to get this sorted in MithrilJS, or even quicker, but because I will be, for the purpose of me speaking whilst I'm coding as well, just to make sure that I'm carrying you along, that's why I've timed it to 10 minutes. But it's fairly straightforward. So what I will do first, as I mentioned in my previous tutorial, I said that, in React, you basically do react.dom.render, and then you say document.getElement by ID. In this case, I have an element here called app, so I will call the app, and then I'll say, okay, app component, right? Now in MithrilJS it's a bit different because I won't be calling the JSX tab here, the JSX rendering of the app component. In fact, react.dom.render wouldn't even be here. It's m.mount, right? And what I'm basically saying here is I want to mount into this element right here, the app ID. I want to map my app component. Now I am going to be using the functional way of developing components. So I'll basically create my function here called app component, and then I will return the view, return an object literal that contains a property called view, and that view property itself is actually a const. So const view is an arrow function, and that arrow function simply just returns this, right? In fact, I'll actually get it to return an array, and that array contains a number of Mithril elements. So number one, I'm going to return an input field, and that input field will be a text box, and I'll specify a set of actions here. So number one, I'll create an event called onKeyUp, and basically I'll create a const up here called onKeyUp. There we go. And another property I wanted to add here was value, and value will equal model.value. Now the question is, where is that coming from? Well, that will come from my model up here, and I have a list, which will be an array, which will be the to-do list, and then I have the value, which basically is just a simple representation of the value that's inserted in here. So then in my onKeyUp method, all I'll be doing quite simply is this. I'll be saying, okay, well, model.value would equal ev, which will come from here, right? ev.target.value, right? And that's basically it. And then I'll just add a quick if statement to say if ev.which equals 13, which basically means if I type enter, then what I want to do is I want to simply just do model.list equals this, model.list, and I want to insert an object here. First one will be the ID, which will be model.list.length, and then I would say, okay, well, I actually want to add the actual value itself. So it would say value, which would be model.value, and then I'll then go on to say, okay, well, is it completed? Has the task been completed? And the answer would be false. So I'll just do a quick console.log of model, just so that we can actually see what it looks like. Model, there we go. And if I just do a quick a quick refresh, you'll see the item here. And if I say, okay, item, you could actually see that it's being added. So here, it hasn't been added, but then when I actually type enter, you see the list here is item and is it completed? False. Now, ideally this field should be clear when I hit enter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly just do this. Model.value equals a blank string, and that will automatically reset the field. So then I'll just add the space here just to make it a bit easier. So there we are. Now what I'm going to do down here now is I'm going to add a unordered list element here, and what I'm going to simply say is, okay, well, map the model list, and for each of them it's going to be an item, and I want to return a Mithril, so I want to return the li tag, and in that tag I'm going to again I'm going to nest some items. The first item is going to be an import with the type of checkbox, and it will have some properties in here. So when I click on right, I would say on checkbox click. In fact, you know what I'll do? I won't even do it at that level. I'll just do it up here. I'll just say, okay, on click, on checkbox click, right? And on checkbox click, we'll basically go up here, actually, const on checkbox click, and that will basically take an argument of the actual item itself, right? So I'll just say item. There we are. So that's an arrow function, and this in itself will also be an arrow function, so that I can actually pass in the item in here, right? So basically that's my list my list tag. When I click on it, I want to run this function which is up here, and it will pass the item in here, and all I'll simply say is, okay, model dot list equals, again, model dot list dot map with the to do, and I'll basically just return this and say, okay, return here three dots to basically denote that I'm going to be copying this in. So I'm going to add the to do, and then completed will basically say, okay, if to do dot id triple equals item dot underscore id. So basically, if this is the ID that I've found, then I want to basically say, okay, to do completed, basically assign it to the opposite. Otherwise, just return the to do dot completed. That's essentially it. So that's all I'll be doing. So if we just take a quick look, actually, at the bottom here. So I've basically just said, okay, import type checkbox, and then I've now said, okay, I want to also want to display a span tag which will consist of the item dot value, right? So now that's all been aligned. Let's see what that actually looks like in the browser. So when I type in, let's see, post on Facebook, post on Instagram, post on YouTube. Oops, I forgot the T in there. Forgive my spelling, but there we are. I click on this, I click on this, I click on this, that looks fine. If I do a quick console log of what is actually in the list, and I just say, okay, Instagram, Facebook, what else is there? YouTube. Don't know what's going on there, but okay. And Twitter. And if I click on Instagram, you see here that Instagram actually has completed true to be toggled. If I click on YouTube as well, that also has it toggled. And if I click on these, you'll see that they're actually all toggled false, and also that has toggled of true. And there you go. That's it. Now, if I wanted to, what I could do here, I could also add a delete function, and all that would simply be is a span tag again, right? And that will contain this here. So if I type in Facebook again, oh, actually, sorry, a button tag, and that button tag will say delete, and then I'll say, okay, on click, and I'll just throw an arrow function in there and say on delete, and I just slap the item in there again, and then I create a function in here called const on delete equals item, right? Because I've passed the item in, and then I'll just say, okay, auto.list equals auto.list.filter, yeah, and then I say, okay, to do again, and then I say basically where where item.id does not equal to do dot underscore id, and that's essentially it. So there we are. In fact, I could even make this into just a one-liner like this. I could even make that into a one-liner as well. That could be there, that could be there. That's fine in there as well. Even that could be a one-liner really. It might go out of bounds for a bit, but I mean, yeah, I think that should be okay. There we go. That's the model, that's the event. There's another event as well, and there's my view, responsible for rendering. There we go. So if I just have a quick look here, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, spot it right this time. If I do a quick check, you see that, okay, these are all done, right? And if I wanted to delete Twitter, for example, I could. If I wanted to delete Facebook and just leave it as Instagram and YouTube, then that would also work. So that's basically how you create a to-do list in MithrilJS. You have your view, which is basically like the equivalent of a render function in React. And then you just have your events up here, and you just define your data up here in the model, and voila, there we are. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. It did take over 10 minutes, just under 15 actually, but I hope you found this beneficial, and I will speak with you guys soon. My next tutorial, as I said, I will be looking to discuss how we could leverage on the routing parts of the Mithril framework, as well as the requests as well, using the Mithril request object as well. All right, guys, take care.